Welcome to E3, Engage and Empower with Empathy, a podcast brought to you by the Empathy Collective, a consulting firm that helps busy business leaders inspire change, one conversation at a time. I'm your host, Rebecca Dreameye, and we are building a community of like-minded leaders and experts who all share the same passion, taking care of people at work. Whether you are a blue-collar worker or white-collar worker, small business owner or corporate executive, you belong in this community. Today's guest is someone who's not only transformed biopharma manufacturing, but also transformed the way people feel at work. Matteo Costioli is a seasoned CMC executive and consultant with over 2 decades of leadership in the biotech space. He's brought more than 20 biologics and biosimilars through development. But what sets him apart is how he brings empathy into every step of the process. From walking into a team that was burned out and demoralized to building trust from scratch, reinventing how decisions get made, and turning disengaged employees into empowered change makers, Matteo doesn't just talk about leadership. He lives it. If you've ever wondered what happens when technical excellence meets human connection, you're about to find out. This is E3, Engage and Empower with Empathy. Welcome to the show, Matteo. It's so lovely to have you here, not only because you were a former colleague of mine and I highly respected you and your leadership style when we were colleagues, but our recent conversation that we had outside this podcast interview today really struck me how you were able to overcome pretty significant challenges with team morale and motivation throughout your career. And so I think we often forget about the human side of what you do, and we focus a lot on the science side of your job in particular. So we'll definitely dive into that, but I think this is going to be a really fun conversation. So welcome.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you very much for inviting me, and really looking forward to the discussion. So it's a pleasure.
So let's talk a little bit about your career experience in leading teams. And you've had a lot of experience leading global teams too. So you've had that multicultural component. And as I mentioned previously, there's a strong technical and regulatory component to your role, which I'm sure is a very strong focus in your job and your tasks that you need to execute on a daily basis. But what really struck me was how you were able to bring people together during really trying times, and where you've come in and had to completely rebuild trust with a demoralized team. I'd love for you to share some examples of how you've used empathy as a leader to re-engage a team, and also just share what surprised you about that whole journey and that process too.
Yeah, sure. I've been leading different teams, different size of team in different corporations, startups. So, and every environment is different. Every people is different. Different in culture, in mindset, and also on the scientific background and so on. So, you have to deal a little bit with all this. And yes, I have a few examples that came into mind. As you mentioned, I work with a team, and actually was one of my challenge. And very often in CMC development, we are speaking about technical issues, about science, about what doesn't go well. And actually here it was different. At the time, my boss sent me to another site with a commercial site and asked me to build almost from scratch, a new team to develop our processes and also to do clinical manufacturing all together. So it was this bold idea to have development and manufacturing together, not commercial, for clinical manufacturing all together to clearly simplify all the steps and the tech transfer, the development, and so on with this manufacturing mindset to keep in mind. So it was a challenge. I really liked the idea, and I said, okay, let's go. Of course, when I came there, the first thing I saw, there were 10 people, something like that. They were exhausted. They were overwhelmed, and they were also overlooked and underevaluated by the rest of the site, because the site was really focused on commercial, so they didn't care about development, to be honest. So the development was not the main focus. It was deliver cost reduction, and you need to deliver the final product at the good price, which is, of course, I can understand, because commercial was at the end the product that will pay our bill at the end of the month. So it's important. Then, nevertheless, was a little bit surprised to see because it was not the company culture to treat people like this, but they felt clearly invisible, and no one see their potential. At the beginning, they say, okay, start to speak because they wanted to meet these people. So they start to speak and say, okay, they have good background, they have a lot of experience. So why they are not recognized and they are not very well understood actually on the side. So what I did, the first step, it was, okay, let's just ask questions. How do you feel it about the situation? Why you think people are not considering you, or why you think your job is not valuable enough? What would make it this meaningful for you? And what would you change if you can change like this? And after this discussion, the first point, what I really noticed, something was missing, and it was a purpose. They didn't know, and probably we can deep dive a little bit more on this, why they were doing this. What is the purpose? Okay, of course, the purpose is to move forward with the project. Easy one. But why? What brings to them? What brings to the company, to the patient at the end? And also, they didn't have a common goals. So they didn't have this part, the mission, or to be, or feel to be part of a team. And so we work actually on this, defining common goals, building a mission. So very basic stuff that you can find in any leadership training that you do. You need to build a mission, which is, it sounds very easy and very naive, but it's very powerful because then people recognize themselves into the team. So we also create a brand. I say, okay, let's create a logo, let's create some tagline that we can use it. And people feel proud to be part of this team at the end. And then this is how we start this adventure. And of course, I also coach them because they need to, they lack of experience how to manage the projects. I was there, I was coaching them during the meetings, for example, in the project meeting. I was there just to see what's going on and to organize everything. But they were leading because they were job to lead the scientific meeting, the project meeting, or any kind of meeting or any kind of data science review that we want to do. And then I started to say, okay, encourage them feedback after that, what went well, what went not very well, why we need to improve this and that. And I encourage really strongly then to propose and lead the solution, not to say, and not to only give instructions. So I didn't want to say, okay, do this, that for the next time. No, it was an open discussion to say, okay, this is, I think we need to improve. This is what I would like to have as a workflow, but you need to be proactive and also to propose something because you are the expert. I'm not the expert in this problem. So we start to do this. And at the same time, we need also to grow the team because I mentioned before, it was development, but also clinical manufacturing. So quite a huge team. We started at 10 and we finished, when I left this company, we were 15. So it was huge growth in 5 years. And we need to manage different projects, up to 10 projects in parallel, at different stage, of course, but we're very tough. So we need to also increase the number of people. And what I wanted, it was, I want to hire people not only based on technical skills. Technical skills you can always train, more or less. Of course, they need to have a minimum, but it was not the major driver. I was really asking the HR to help me to find people with the soft skills necessary to contribute to the team and not to have some destructive people. So I wanted really something that go and make a cohesion with the team. So different culture, different mindset, different schools as well. I wanted something very diverse. Yeah, I believe in diversity, so it was really, really good. And then we start to work together on how we want to work together. From these people, it was easy because newcomer were there. No, they have no, let's say they're not biased by the company, let's say. So we can really work on our way of working, on our workflow. And then this was the main part and the main successful of this short story. So what surprised me the most, it's that it was very easy to implement and the people react very quickly and it didn't take years to change. Very often we see now change takes years, change culture takes years. Yes, probably company culture change global, yes. For a small team, it can be very, very, very fast if they believe that this is the right way and if they see this energy coming from being together and make a team. So after maybe a couple of months already, the same people that were completely demotivated were delivering amazing work. They were also very assertive. Now they became much more and more assertive. They can take decisions by themselves. They were not always let's say, the decision taken by or other people or other manager or other project lead for other function, they were also able to say no. They were always also able to say no. This is the way to go, and so on. So I was really proud about that because they became very independent very quickly, very energized, very creative, and then they start to propose more and more. Oh, we can improve this, we can improve that. How to reduce, how to simplify. So was the reward for me. And also at the end, they were also very well recognized by the site because they were, okay, your team now is performing well. I have very good feedback in this meeting, in that meeting. The collaboration with the other function was even improved. So everything was fast and gave the very nice results. So at the end, it was not the science itself because the science was fun. They have a good science. They have good basic. And we develop as well this, but it was really the way and the empathy behind that, how to move forward with the team.
That's such a fascinating story, and so it seems like a natural leadership trait for you, Matteo. Where did you learn these skills?
Some people say that you burn as you burn as a manager, but you can also become a manager. But it's true, there is something that it's inside. But also, to be honest, my previous company was very good in training. So we have a very good training for leaders. And in particular, I have a couple of them that were really, really changing my way of thinking. And one was lead as a coach, meaning that the leader that we can see very often in the past where the leader was very directive. So the leader is a general and say, okay, you do this, that, and giving order, full stop, which is not the leader that I recognize myself. I wanted to be more open, more discussive. I want to have the input from the expert. I want to have an open discussion to get also other point of view, because my point of view can be wrong sometimes. So I need this. Then I take the decision, of course, because I'm the leader. But nevertheless, I want to be sure that I take the right decision. And the right decision can be taken only if you have an open discussion. Otherwise, we always go in your direction and sometimes can be wrong, even if you have a lot of experience. So was the main, let's say, training that really, really opened my mind. It was very simple. I'm a very pragmatic person, so I like simplicity. It was a very simple training, very, very nice, very well done, and really changed my way of working with the team.
That's great, and I love that concept of leading as a coach. Like you said, it's very simple, but can be so powerful and impactful in a team. And as you were telling your story, all I could think about is a book I'm reading right now called The Power of Mattering, and it talks about the impact of creating an organization where people feel like they are significant, like they matter.
Yes.
And your story basically outlines everything that the author is outlining in his book, which is you're giving people a voice, you're creating that two-way dialogue, you're showing them the why, that they have purpose and meaning in their work. And as a result, people come feeling like they matter. And the outcome of that is they go in above and beyond for you without you even having to ask. So I imagine you probably saw that outcome in the increased collaboration and cohesion that you created in your team. All of a sudden people are raising their hand and going above and beyond and saying, hey, I'm going to do this, or I'd like to suggest this, which is what you want, right? You want people to feel empowered and excited to perform.
Absolutely, yes. You're absolutely true, and there are plenty of examples where this is can be applied, and also example in the lab where people were because, for example, in the lab the people they know better than you because I'm out from the lab. I did my PhD and so on in the lab, but it was 20, 30 years ago. So I'm out completely from the lab. I know how it works, the basic, but they know how to improve. If you want to improve efficacy or efficiency, you cannot do alone. You cannot be a manager. It can be only the people in the lab. So you need to listen to them. What is their problem? Why they cannot do faster? Why they cannot? What is the and then you realize that maybe it's a technical issue, but maybe also it's a documentary issue because they have too many documents to fill, and they are not. And it's a patchwork of documents here and there, which actually it was 50%. We measured it. It was 50% of our job. It was documentation, which it's very important because we are living in a very specific environment, so we need to document. But 50% was a lot. So how to reduce them? It's a burden for them. It's a burden also for the project because it takes much more time. So everything goes together. And so you need also to listen to understand better where is the problem, and very often the problem is because of wrong communication with other functions, for example, or also within the lab, because they don't understand each other. So it's very important. Once you understand this, then it will be much easier. But if you don't listen to the people, of course, you will never get the right solution for a problem.
That's a great point, and I think we underestimate the power of listening. I feel like our current culture promotes talking, and when we think of communication, we think of speaking or writing or whatever, something very active. But I think we take for granted how active the listening component is in a conversation, where have to be completely engaged and really listening for cues, emotional cues, facial expressions, making observations, because that's where you really get to the heart of what the barrier is for that person, and what they're struggling with. So I love that you take the time to really deeply listen to people.
Thank you.
So I'd love to talk a little bit about change. That seems to be, actually just published a blog article today on the topic of change, and how we often hear change is the only constant. And I think we're all annoyed by that expression by now, because we hear it so much. But it's a reality. It's a reality in our lives, at work and at home. And you are such a good example of taking change and turning it into an opportunity. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the story you shared with me offline about taking people through change, and empowering employees to lead the transformation themselves from the ground up. What did that look like?
Yeah, yes, you're right. Change is I mean, it's in the DNA of my job. Within development, we need to change every 2 minutes, to change the timelines, to change the approach, to change according to decision of R&D, to decision of the commercial, to decision whatever. So we need to change and to adapt. It's a change, it's adaptation. Okay, it's semantics, but still we need to adapt and to change something, our way of working, our way of thinking. And then with the new technology, of course, changing is constant. And then change scare people. So the first thing when you want to change something or to implement something new, people are scared. There are so only a couple of them that they are really enjoying. Oh, okay, something new. They are excited. Most of the team, part of the team, let's say not most, part of the team, it's on maybe. Okay, let's see. It's waiting and see. Others are resistant from the beginning just because it's a change. A bunch of them are really excited about the change. And so this is what happened. Yes, in another company, I came, and then it was very difficult because 3 different sites, 3 different locations, and 3 different teams, but working on development. And it was a huge team. It's about 200 people, so it's a very big team. And so, as you can imagine, this is led to silos, duplication of activity, miscommunication, strong competition between them, and efficiency was not there. So we need to rework. There are a lot of work, rework, we're transferring method from here and there. So it was very heavy and very costly, of course. So we were also in a execution and firefighting mode, more firefighting mode. As you can imagine, always this, because this continues back and forward, give a lot of issues. We need to solve the issues, but there is a lot of pressure, a lot of projects. So I say, when I came to this, I say, okay, wow, we need to do something, we need to change. So instead of going there and say, okay, guys, this is the new organization, let's apply full stop, because I believe that will be the solution. I could have done this because I have full power. So, but I say, based on past experience, if you apply some new organization that maybe was good for a certain company, in a new company, it may be different because of culture, because of the way of working, because of the company itself. So you cannot copy paste. You can be inspired, of course, which what I did, but you cannot copy paste. So I didn't want to say, here's the new organization that I want to do. And also for the motivation for the people. If I do a top-down decision, they will say, okay, let's apply as usual, nothing much. If they are creating themselves the new environment, the environment that they want to evolve and they want to work, then they commit much better and much faster. But we have this Gaussian distribution. It is very common that there is early adopter, very few, by people that are resistant, a lot, and people that are hesitating, a little bit less. So you need to manage this. So the idea was okay, let's do some kind of brainstorming first, and then followed by a series of workshops where we ask openly the people what doesn't go well, why you cannot communicate, what you think that you can. Similar to what I said before, but was much bigger team. So we need to put some different approach. So, and I was new, so I couldn't go there and say, okay, guys, come to me and say what you think. It doesn't work because they didn't trust me. They didn't know me. So it was impossible. So, okay, I asked help for an external consultant to lead this workshop and this brainstorming session. And I also say, which was very important, to say, okay, we want to change. I will not say what to do. You want to change. You're not happy with the situation. I can understand, but don't wait for me to do, okay, wait and see. You need to be proactive. And they were a little bit shocked because they, oh, come on. Usually it's the manager tell us what to do. So I asked for volunteer. There will be a sort of motivation workshop without explaining exactly what are the rules at the moment, but I need volunteers. And yes, there will be extra work probably because it's on top of what you're doing. So it's reduced even further the people, but I wanted really motivated people, what we call the early adopter, the one that really wanted and they want to change. And I was surprised because out from 200, maybe 20 or even more accepted this challenge. They say, okay, we want to be part. So I say, wow, it's quite good because a lot of people. And so we decided to do some kind of brainstorming. I was also impressed by the way that they wanted to, the idea that they brought up a lot of idea, not every idea we could implement, of course. And then I say, okay, now what are we separate with different topics. I like the topics, and surprisingly, the main topic was not the salary, not to increase the salary, as very often you can imagine. If you want to motivate people, just increase the salary. No, it was not like this. And surprisingly or not, because to be honest, it's very often the case. If the salary is really, really low, of course, but if its salary is acceptable and it's very well in the benchmark, usually it's not the major driver for motivation. So what they wanted to do is harmonize and simplify the way of working, setting clear role and responsibilities, understand what you have to do, who is leading this project, what are the role of the expert, what are my role in the team. This is very important. So they got two main topics. Then also some development part, because people want to develop themselves. They want to see, okay, what I would be in 5 years. This is very often interviewed. You say, what you will be, are you see in 5 years? Yes, but they also, not only at the interview, they also people working in the lab or whatever they which kind of work environment they have. They want to evolve. They want to develop. They want to do something. Not all of them, but most of them. So also, let's work on the development part. Not just for manager, because very often it's something that is set for manager. It's clear. If you want to make career in most of the company, you need to be a manager. Otherwise, you cannot have a career. So we say, no, let's build also something for people that they don't want to be a manager, or maybe they are not able to be a manager, or maybe whatever the reason, we need to develop other paths. One path was the management, clearly was very well defined. Other path was project management, a little bit less well defined, but still there. But what wasn't exist, it was the expert career. So people that are very good scientists, and we need them a lot, but very often not a good manager because they don't like or because they are not interesting to be a manager, but because you want to develop them, you put in a management position. So we say, okay, we need also to work on this path. So this is where the four topics that we pick up. And then we create also something that this was my input. I wanted this, so I push a little bit because I thought it was missing. Something like a scientific space where we can really learn how to talk about science. Because again, CMC, it's about science. Process development for biologic, it's about science. If you don't have a good scientific understanding, we cannot develop a good product at the end. So we need to talk about science. We need a space to talk about science where we can openly speak up without any judgment, and we can share what we found, and then we can challenge each other. This was also my input that I want them to work also on this because it was missing. But all the other, they came up alone with these topics. Then I say, okay, now we created some task force for these topics. And the idea, we wrote the idea in front of the other people because only 20 were involved. Then, to be honest, during the workshop, more people want to join. So I allowed more people. that at the beginning was a little bit hesitating. At the end, they were probably like 40 at the end working on the task force, because I asked the people, okay, now you have some idea for each topic. Let's say we put all the idea together with their manager, myself. We analyze them. We value, okay, goes this direction. This we can do, because not all idea we can do it for different reason, because we don't have the buy-in from the management. We don't have the money. We have different, so we cannot do everything. Of course, we need to prioritize. So we put this idea in these different pockets, and then they present each task for each group presented the ideas, and then the rest. So it was a way also for me to make the rest of the team aware of what's going on, because they say, okay, they are working on something. We create the momentum. People are there. What is going on? So they were interested. They were intrigued. They didn't want to enter because they say, okay, I don't want to work, but still. It was a lot of curiosity around it. So I say, okay, this is for the first output of this workshop and brainstorming. And then we voted for the best 5 idea to implement immediately. And I say, okay, this is my commitment and your management commitment. I say to the manager, okay, because they're reporting, of course, the manager reporting to me and say, okay, I commit. So they commit that they will implement your idea, and we stick to it. And actually what we have done. But of course we need to implement the people. And then eventually these people were so engaged and so they felt so energized by the idea that they were able also to engage the others. The one that were hesitating, they were speak loudly. And this is, I didn't say anything. It's okay. Usually it's the process itself, because they are engaged, because they wanted to do, because they are motivated, then they will, by speaking, also motivate the other, because they see something is going on. So this is the movement that it's creating. You have a leader and you have the followers. So these guys were the leaders, and then the follower just become because everyone. And then when the majority of the people were in this situation, also the resistant one, at the beginning, they didn't want to do anything. They were, let's say, not obliged, but it was the flow. They couldn't do anything other than follow the flow. And then they were also engaged on this. And then we implement the new organization with all the role and responsibility. Of course, usually not everyone was happy, but they couldn't complain, because they say, okay, I was there, I had the opportunity, I didn't speak up. Now this is the new organization, I need to adapt. And at the end, they were somehow happy because the change was implemented. But you cannot have 100% of people happy anyway. So you need to be realistic. And but the majority were. So I was happy with this.
That's like an A+ example of diffusion of innovations and applying that model of the innovators, the early adopters, the late adopters, the laggards. I mean, you did it scientifically perfectly, because you started with those early adopters who were super excited to change to begin with. And as you started to create engagement and momentum, you pulled more people in. And to your point about the late adopters and the really strong resistors, it was almost like they were trying to swim upstream at that point. So they just, went with the flow. So it's such a wonderful example of how that model works, really starting with the highly engaged people and then kind of letting it spread like a movement. What I also love about what you said is people feel like they're a part of the change. They don't
Exactly.
feel like change is just being dictated to them. They feel like they are contributing to how that change evolves. What you did was a perfect way of helping them feel involved and not just feel like they're doing what they're told they're supposed to do.
Yeah, was the goal at the beginning. Is I want them to feel that it's coming from themselves, so they cannot, and then they need to commit. Otherwise, that doesn't make sense. And it worked, because then we put in place. Then of course the deployment and putting in place all the initiative will take time anyway. This is for sure. You cannot change everything in especially the governance and all the situation. We cannot change in 2 days. Took several months, but some ideas were implemented earlier than other, of course, because they are easy, quick win, and long term ideas that you need to implement. But at the end, you have a motivated team and more efficient, because we also look at efficiency in the lab, because efficiency is not only for cost reduction for the company, but it's also less work for the people in the lab. So if they need to do 12 hours per day to deliver the project, or to move forward with the test and the data analysis, at one point they say it's too much, because we work eight hours, not 12. So we need to do something. So by increase the efficiency, we also reduce the time spent in the lab that waste time because it was not added value time. So of course we track with the wasting time. And say also they were, I think, because of this, so they less workload for them, more time to do some interesting stuff like science, so viewing the data, interpretation of the data, make new experimental design and so on. So this is the part that they like, not all the other ancillary part. Probably it's not the real added value for the scientist.
Yeah, no, and that's a win for you and a win for them. They receive some value, you receive some value and increased efficiency for your team. And I think it's just a testament to how important it is to take the time to go through the process that you went through with the team and taking them through these workshops and really engaging them, which might take more time up front than if you were to just move straight into execution mode with the change. A lot of leaders make that mistake. They just think, oh, we got to get this done. We got to get this change implemented. So they go straight into execution mode and they forget that
Yes.
doing what you did and engaging the team first and making them feel involved is actually a time savings exercise on the long run because you, in the end, get a more engaged team around the change. Um,
It's a very important point that you mentioned because very often you feel the pressure from your senior management. You say, okay, you need to change, you need to have results, this and that. So this is why you say, okay, the best way, I know what to do. I know my job. I've had experience, go this way. And it's indeed, it's for me, it's a mistake. This is why I didn't want. So from the beginning, I say, okay, you want me here in this position. And one of my goals was to, but give me the freedom to propose something, to have a strategy and deploy the strategy. So I have an open discussion with my senior management, an agreement. Okay, this is the time we'll take. You don't need to expect everything immediately. And then you need also to convince your senior manager. This is very important. And indeed, I forgot to mention, because if you don't have the buying of your senior management, you cannot do it. Because at the end, you will see, okay, what are you doing? Some brainstorming? Come on, it's brainstorming something. Yeah, it's part of the process. It's not only the brainstorming, but if you don't explain what's going on, how your process works, and what are the deliverable at the end, and what you expect as increasing efficiency and motivation and so on, it's not possible. I was lucky because they did understand the situation and they saw that something was wrong and they couldn't manage anymore. So that it was easy also to convince that there is another solution because they tried the other one before.
yeah, no, you make a good point about having to manage upward with senior
Yes.
leaders and really getting buy-in for this kind of thing. So let's pivot a little bit. We talked a little bit at the beginning about the importance of sharing the why behind a decision, behind a change effort, or whatever it is. And it sounds like this is a really critical component for you that you really want to establish with the team, so they always know what the purpose of the team is, what the purpose of the project is. How does that translate into the way you lead? How do you implement that strong connection to why in our work?
It's a very interesting question. And to be honest, first of all, I need to say that I can't take full credit for this because it's not my idea. It's coming from, probably you know Simon Sinek Golden Circle, which it was, I remember the first time I see it was 7 minutes video. It was so clear, so simple. I really love the simplicity of this. I mentioned before, I'm very pragmatic and I love simplicity, especially in my job, which very complex by nature. We need to simplify everything. And this was the game changer. It's like, wow, this is, and it was absolutely, it was right. I mean, it's the best way to motivate people and to explain, because myself I say, okay, of course, if I don't know why I'm doing something, I will not do it the same way. And so I started to apply every time, but not only apply myself to explain the strategy, okay, why we do this, how and what. I started to apply and to ask the people, instead of jumping to the what to do or how to do it. I asked them, first of all, when you have a task, when you have something, when someone asks you something, ask yourself, why? Why should I do this? Why should I do this experiment? Why should I do this project? If you don't have a clear answer from your manager or from other side, you have the right to challenge it and to say, why should we do something? And people were not used to this. People were used, very often they are used, okay, your manager says something, you do. Full stop. You don't even question it. And I didn't like it because a manager can have a good idea, can give the idea. Maybe the communicate not very well. Maybe it was not clear. Maybe he has an interpretation from a previous manager or a upper manager or whatever, and then it cascades differently. So it's important to have also some control there. And then what does it mean? Because if it doesn't make sense to do it, don't do it. It was because a waste of time. So you cannot challenge everything, of course. Then there is always a balance. But most of the time, you can ask yourself, why should I do this? Then you start to say, okay, how and what is the deliverable at the end? So this was implemented from the beginning. For my, let's say, my speech were based on why, how, and what, always. So we do this change because blah, blah, blah. This is why we want. This is why this is the purpose of our team. Every time I was always, and it started by me because I need to give this mantra to the people. Some of them knew, some of them didn't. But by repeating this all the time, then it started to enter in the mind of the people. And then you start to ask yourself, now you can ask yourself and your manager why you are doing this. Again, not every time, because then it's annoying, but when it's fair. And then this mindset naturally led to more openness. So people were encouraged to speak up, to challenge each other, always respectfully. It's clear. You need to be respectful for the other, not judgment. And science is about this, right? It's really how we challenge each other, how we can build on other ideas. If you don't have this discussion, the science is there. You cannot improve. You will always do the same mistake forever. So it's exchanging idea, it's challenging idea, testing assumption, and then find the best approach with different experts. And then you will manage to go there. So this was the idea behind this, all this why and what and how. And it was my mantra all the time. I was even annoying some people because at one point you say, okay, we understand, stop it. But it works because then they also start to ask themselves why and so on. I explained all the strategy and I was very transparent. I also like to be transparent with my team. So till a certain point, because there are also a lot of confidential, let's say, topic that I cannot discuss with them. But I say it's a confidential. I cannot go into the detail, but this is what's going on, and this is why we change our direction, why we drop a project, why we decided to end this project, even if the results were good. So always a reason behind something and make a purpose, and then also explaining how we do it, and at the end what we want to deliver. And it is also important. Managers should work with all. If you are a leader and you don't do what you're saying, it's not good. It's not a good example. So it was important also for me. If I want the people having the same mindset, I need to apply constantly. And the main goal was to create a purpose not only for our job, but also for the team, for the company, and ultimately for the patient. So it was really how to create the purpose, and then you can decline in a very high level, cultural level, company level, but you can go down to the lab. Very often people will say, oh, okay, it's another company. I don't want to say that word, but something that is company, okay, it's why, it's coming from the company. But then you can apply this to the level of your lab. Also, if you have a manager of 5 people, you can also apply this. You can also explain the why. What is the purpose of the team? What is the purpose of your specific team or this project or whatever? So you can always find, and you need to find it and to explain to your team. Otherwise, they don't understand why they're working and they are not motivated. So it's very simple. And I think that was one of the major lessons that I learned in my career. And it took 7 minutes video indeed, but it was very inspiring.
And I think that's why Simon Sinek's 7-minute video went viral because
yeah, probably
it's received billions of views. I think most people really appreciated its simplicity and it's resonated a lot. And I don't know if you were aware, but when you were talking about carrying people through change, Simon also does a little video around change. I can't remember what it's titled, but he talks about using the diffusion of innovations and the early adopters, and he provides an example. And I kept thinking of that example as you were telling your story.
It's not only from him. There are other people speaking about this early adopter, which is, and for this, I remember a very nice video that was also viral a few years ago of the people of one guy dancing in a festival. At the beginning, he was dancing. It was a little bit funny, quite goofy, and then you start to build this movement. And it's one of the videos that I use also to show the team that we are the leader. At the beginning, it's difficult. You're in front of everything. You can feel it awkward. You can feel it not comfortable. But then it's also to explain the importance of the follower. A leader without a follower is not a leader. Will not be a leader. Will be alone. You need followers. So not followers like in social media. I mean, real followers that will believe in what you do, and then you create a movement. On the movement created, then as you mentioned, as we discussed it before, the flow is going to. So this is also something that it's very powerful, and this is what I wanted to create in this dynamics of the workshop and so on.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your experience throughout your career as a leader. It's certainly enlightened me. I've learned a lot from you today, and I think it's just a great example of how you were able to take the heart and the science of what you do and really merge the two to create resilient teams. So thank you for being you, Matteo.
Thank you. Thank you for the nice word.
I feel like whoever you lead next, they're in very good hands, and they're very fortunate to have you as their leader. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you again for inviting me.
If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to hear more, please subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And if you would like to learn more about the Empathy Collective, check out our website, theempathycollective.com. Life is too short. Let's take care of each other at work so that together we can make this world a better place.